Hello, it is time to set goals for 2025. You're going to get a little bit of a sneak preview into my new budget spreadsheet that I'm going to be using in 2025. I'm going to be setting my goals for 2025, and these are mostly going to be financial goals, although I am probably going to have a few personal goals in there as well. I set financial goals for this year in 2024, and I think that actually setting the goals really made a difference in being able to achieve them. We haven't finished out the year yet, so I haven't done a recap on whether or not we met those goals, but I think we're pretty close on most of them. I've done a few goal updates that I can link if you'd like to watch them, as well as my original 2024 goal video. We did have to change some of the goals about a quarter into the year because of replacing our roof, but a lot of the goals stayed the same. So as I go through the goals that we're setting for this year, I will let you know what the goal was for last year so that if you don't feel like going back and watching those videos, you don't have to. They are about a year old and they were probably one of my first videos, so they're not very good. So let's get right into tracking my goals. So first of all, this is the spreadsheet that I'm going to be using for tracking my goals. And every month it's going to auto-populate based off of the inputs that I put in for every month. So it will update the progress as we move throughout the year, but the goals I'll have to manually enter in. So as I go through this, I'm actually going to hide all of these columns since we don't need them right now. So first of all, we're going to start out with our income. And this year I'm going to be budgeting based off of my gross income, so you will know exactly what's coming in from my paycheck, and then you'll see the taxes go out, the retirement contributions, the retirement loan, and the other deductions that I'll get into in a little bit. So I'm expecting my gross income this year to be about $130,000. So before taxes and all that, $130,000. So last year I was expecting it to be a little over 100,000. I had 108,000 as my goal, and that was because I wasn't working for the first quarter of the year due to maternity leave. I was taking unpaid leave, so I wasn't working at the beginning of the year, and so this is a bit of a raise from what I was getting this year, the 130,000. I'm expecting at least a 3% raise that hopefully I'll find out about very, very soon. I'm expecting a gross income of $130,000. And then from my husband, this is not going to be gross income. This is going to be what actually hits the joint account after taxes. And this will be 85% of his take-home pay after taxes and retirement contributions. So we're expecting him to bring home about $59,000. And then I'm expecting a little bit of interest this year, $360. So that's about $30 a month in interest, although we're probably expecting a little bit more at the beginning of the month while we still have our roof savings in our savings account, and then that will go way down and then hopefully build back up throughout the year as we keep adding to savings. We're also expecting about $300 in credit card rewards. This is about $25 a month. Either my husband or I will be redeeming credit card rewards probably every month, depending on how much we spend, because the rewards are dependent on spending. We get 1.5% cash back on everything for using our credit cards. We use our credit cards for everything, and then we pay them off at the end of every month. before they're due, so we don't ever pay any interest on our credit cards. Refunds, I'm expecting about $1,000. This is tax refunds. I think last year we got a little bit more because we had some extra credits due to us. I try to pay only exactly what we need to pay in taxes, but sometimes they withhold a little bit more and then we get a refund. So $1,000 in refunds is just a very rough estimate. And then for other income, we're expecting about $100. Sometimes this is more, sometimes it's less. This is usually things like birthday money or like last year I opened a couple of checking accounts and they had bonuses. So that's what I would consider other income. And we're only expecting $100, but of course anything above that would be nice. So overall, we're expecting a little over $190,000 in income, and a lot of this is pre-tax. So last year we were only expecting about $155,000 in income, and again that was because I wasn't working for the first quarter of the year. And so moving on to savings, I'm going to be contributing to my 403B or 401k. It's actually a 403B, but I usually call it a 401k just because it's the same thing basically. So I'm going to be contributing just 4% is what I'm planning. Because that's what my employer matches, and so that should be about $5,500. I rounded a lot of these numbers in the goals so that it would be a little bit easier. And then my daughter's 529. We're planning on contributing $5,000 again. Currently, that's still the max that you can contribute to receive a state tax break, and that's the main reason why we are contributing to her 529 is just for the tax relief. I mean, also because funding her education is important, but it's not absolutely necessary. But if we can get a tax break for doing that, then that's what we're doing. And then for Acorns, which is my after-tax brokerage account, I'm just contributing the bare minimum, which is a $5 recurring monthly contribution, and then sometimes roundups, which are usually about $5 every month, and then so that would be $240 over the course of the year. And then next year we are contributing to my husband's Roth IRA, and we're planning $8,000. I think the max next year is $7,000, but we have yet to max out his Roth for this year. And so I think we're only going to need about $1,000 more in the new year that we can apply to the 2024 Roth. So we're planning on contributing that extra $1,000 towards the 2024 Roth and then maxing out the 2025 Roth. Oh, and for savings, I changed this up from last year. Last year I was considering like our major savings goals under savings, but this year I've moved those savings goals into sinking fund goals. So you'll see my emergency fund and any other additional saving down in my sinking funds instead of up in savings. So last year we had the goal of saving about $63,000, and a lot of that was for the emergency fund and the new roof. Let's see. And I didn't include my husband's 401k on this. I don't think I'm going to track that in our goals. He's also contributing 3%, which is his employer match to his retirement plan for work. I'm not going to track that in our goals this year because we're not going to decrease that at all. and we probably won't increase it either, so we'll see. Last year I put his retirement goals in our savings goal, so we planned to contribute about 24,000 to retirement and such last year. So this year, it looks like we're planning to contribute a little bit less. So now moving on to debt, which is our most exciting goal for 2025. First, we have our mortgage. We're just continuing to pay the bare minimum for that, and I think for most of the year it's going to be $2,675 a month. It just went down in December, and so that's going to be our new payment for the entirety of 2025 up until they do the escrow analysis again, and then maybe next December we'll have a different payment. But adding all of that up, that would be $32,100 that we're contributing to our mortgage, and about half of that, no, about 2/3 of that is for escrow and interest. So only about a third of that will actually be going to the principal of our mortgage payment, but it is what it is. So next we have our truck, and we are actually planning on paying this off this year. So we have 2 more months on this loan. It's at a 5.69% interest rate, and we are planning on paying it off within, I think, the first 4 months of the year, hopefully. Hopefully we will have that paid off before April next year. And so all of our additional money that we have will be going towards paying off the truck. We currently pay for this every other week. It's a little bit over $300 every other week, so about $600 or $900 a month, depending on whether or not there's 4 or 5 Mondays in a month, and whether those Mondays are the days that we pay for the truck. So at the beginning of the year, we'll owe about $13,800 on the truck, and so we're planning on paying all of that off over the first few months of the year. And then I have a retirement account loan. This is a combination of a debt and a savings, because everything I put into the retirement account loan actually goes into my retirement account. There's like a $30 annual fee, but all of the interest gets paid to my account. So we are actually planning on paying this loan off this year too. So at the beginning of the year, I will owe about $37,500 on this loan, and after we pay off the truck, then we're going to start making additional payments towards my retirement account loan. So hopefully we should get it paid off before the end of the year, as long as no big expenses come up, crossing our fingers. But that also actually means that $37,500 will be contributed to my retirement as well. So you can kind of double count that as a debt payoff and a savings. So that'll be really nice, because we have had to slow down on our retirement contributions in 2024, and we're going to keep only contributing the minimum in 2025. So it's going to be very nice to pay off that loan and give our retirement savings a little bit of a boost for that reason. And then our final debt is my husband's student loans, and for this one, we are also planning on only paying the minimum payments. So that would be a total of $4,584 that we are going to pay towards student loans this year. I think he also owes about $36,000 on those, but the interest rate on those is the highest interest rate is like 4.28% or something. So they're all really low interest. And we are kind of paying off the higher interest ones a little bit faster than the low interest ones. But for 2025, we're planning on just making the minimum payments again, because, well, you'll see that we really don't have that much extra to throw at even more debts, because we also have to, live every day. So after all of our savings goals and our debt payoff, we still have about $84,000 that we are working with, but I have to pay taxes. I'm expecting that to be about $36,000. That will just come out automatically from my paychecks every month or every 2 weeks. And then I also pay for life insurance out of my paycheck. I'm expecting that to be about $80 this year. You don't see health insurance coming out because I'm on my husband's health insurance plan through his work, because his work covers that completely. So he doesn't have to pay anything out of pocket for the premiums, but we do have a high deductible plan this year, which means we have access to an HSA. So we might consider contributing to the HSA this year. It will depend on whether or not any huge expenses come up. We're hoping for no big expenses, obviously, but debt is really our focus this year before savings. I know an HSA is really great for tax reasons. His workplace contributes a little bit to the HSA, but they don't max it out. So we could max it out, and I think that's going to be maybe a secondary goal that I'm probably going to look into about halfway through the year. So when I do my quarterly updates, I will talk about whether or not we have shifted towards contributing to the HSA or not, because I'm not totally decided, and we have to figure out how much we'll need to contribute, because I don't have access to all of that information. So I have to get it from my husband to see how much they contribute, and so how much we will be able to put in there as well, so that we can max it out and don't contribute over the max. Our next fixed expense is car insurance, and I'm expecting $2,100. That's assuming that it goes up in January. That's when ours renews, and I don't actually know exactly how much it's going to be for, so I'm just budgeting a little bit higher, because better to be safe than sorry. Same with utilities. I'm budgeting about $200 a month. For the past year, it's been a lot less than that, but we're on this budget billing, and it has been artificially low, I'll say. We've been paying much less than we use for electricity, and so I'm expecting it to go up and kind of overcompensate for the amount of time that we've been underpaying. For internet, I'm expecting that to be $30 every month, so $360 for the year. For Acorns, this is just the subscription cost for my after-tax brokerage. I pay $1 a month, so I'm expecting that not to change. If for some reason they do change that, I probably won't continue using Acorns, because it's not really worth it to pay more than $1 a month for it. For my daughter's daycare, this is low. I'm expecting to pay $10,600, and I will tell you why. We pay $300 a week currently, and I'm expecting to continue to pay $300 a week, but I've decreased this for a reason that you'll see down here in a little bit. So, moving on to my sinking funds, we're planning on contributing about $10,800 to home this year. And so hopefully we won't be spending that much on home, but we might be. You never know. There's always so much maintenance that comes up throughout the year. That breaks down to about $900 a month. So this is a little bit more than we had budgeted for last year, and we kind of overspent in home. Well, not quite. We were very close to overspending in home last year, so I figured we would just bump it up just to be safe. Although some of our home spending last year was on a washing machine, which we don't need another washing machine, so and a pool pump, and we don't need another pool pump. So hopefully no other big things break that we will need to spend in home, but you never know. For groceries next year, we're planning on contributing $4,200 to our sinking fund, and that's about $350 a month. This is exactly what we budgeted for last year. Even though the cost of groceries has gone up significantly in the past couple of years. So we started buying a lot of our staples in bulk, and so that saves us a lot, like price per pound. It's a lot cheaper. So hopefully, even though my daughter's going to be eating a lot more real food this year than she was eating last year, hopefully our grocery budget will remain the same. For car and gas, I'm budgeting $1,800, and this is really just for gas for me and probably an oil change. My husband gets free oil changes for his truck, and he pays for his own gas. That's just the choice that he's made. Hopefully there's no big car maintenance. I was in 2 car accidents this last year. Neither of them were my fault, and they were both just like fender benders, no big deal. But one of them, it was a hit and run, so I had to pay out of pocket for that, a smaller deductible. I also got tires this last year, so I don't need any tires. Hopefully I don't need anything other than basic maintenance on my car. And hopefully my husband doesn't need anything either. So $1,800 for gas. We had budgeted a little bit more last year, but that's because I was expecting my husband to be spending this gas budget. That's about $150 a month on gas. But if you've seen any of my spending updates, I spend about $30 a month on gas. I drive a plug-in hybrid, so it's, even though I drive like 65 miles a day, I only need to get gas about every 6 weeks, so once or twice a month. For gifts and donations, we are expecting to spend only $600 this year. I think we're going to have a little bit of a low spend year again. It worked really well this year in helping us reach our goals, and since we are focusing on debt payment, I think I want to continue not spending too much money. So we're not going to limit how much we spend on our family, but my husband and I just won't be buying big gifts for each other, I don't think. And for restaurants, same thing. We're probably not gonna go out. We have a pretty big sinking fund for restaurants that we've built up this year, because we didn't spend anything really this year. So this is about $20 a month in restaurants, and our sinking fund currently has a couple $100 in it already. So we do have plenty to spend in restaurants if we do decide that we want to start going out a little bit more than we had this year. For pets, I have two rabbits and they need food and litter and hay and going to the vet for vaccines. So I'm budgeting $600 for them. They're about $30 every other month for food and about $300 for their vet appointments. So $600 should hopefully cover them. This is a lot more than I budgeted last year for them because I think I under budgeted for them, and I don't want to do that going forward. So $600 is my goal for filling my pet sinking fund. And I'm not going to go through my spending goals, but my goals are always to spend less than what is in my sinking fund, or less than what I contribute to my sinking fund. Even though my sinking funds start out the year usually with a positive amount, I don't want to spend more than I contribute, because spending more than you make is a recipe for debt. For baby this year, I'm planning on only contributing $360. That is about $30 a month, which is way less than we contributed last year. But last year we were using her sinking fund for her nursery and her doctor bills, the hospital bills for her being born. So we had budgeted a lot more last year. This year, she's probably just going to need clothes as she grows. Maybe some toys, but probably not. She'll probably get all of the toys that she needs from family over Christmas and her birthday. But most of the stuff that we buy her comes from the thrift store anyway, so we shouldn't need to spend too much on her. For clothing and personal, I'm just budgeting $60 again this year. That's about $5 a month. And this is really my personal spending. As I mentioned, with my husband's income, he keeps 15% of his income and he spends it however he wants. So if he wants to make any clothing or personal purchases, it comes out of his own personal spending, and I don't track that at all. So, but this is mine. Or if for some reason we use joint money on something in this category, but that's pretty unlikely. But I don't really buy much, and I'm probably going to continue a low spend, at least for myself this year. For travel and entertainment, again, we're only going to budget $60. We don't really have any trips or anything planned. My daughter's still really young. She's she's going to turn 2 this year. So I don't know if we're going to do any kind of traveling or entertainment. I know sometimes we like to go to like the state fair, or I think she's going to be too young for that still. So we do like to go camping, but that's usually very, very inexpensive. For health, this is a category that we went way over. I had an FSA this year that we actually ended up spending all of by the end of the year, which is good because if you don't spend the money, then you lose the money. but we ended up spending a lot more in health than I anticipated, and so we used up all the FSA money, and then spent a lot more. A lot of that was the hospital bills from 2023, from when my daughter was born. All of those came due in 2024, and I just didn't have, well, I couldn't use my 2024 FSA for those. So we had to pay out of pocket for a lot of those medical expenses and couldn't get the untaxed money for those. But this year we will have the HSA. So I think if we use the HSA, I probably won't track it, although I should, because that's also spending. I don't know. Let me know in the comments what you think. Should I track the HSA spending, or should I just count that as a freebie of spending? Next we have phone. We pay for this annually. We're on Mint Mobile. I don't know if we're going to stick with Mint Mobile. I just have the 5 gig plan. That's plenty for me, but my husband wants the unlimited. So I think this is about, because of the fees that they add on, it's about $55 a month for both of our phone lines. We shouldn't need new phones. We've had them for about a year and a half, and I'm hoping that they'll last us at least 3 years. My phone before this one lasted me over 3 years, so that's my plan. But tech these days, it's not built to last, so you never know. I wish it was because I hate how wasteful it is to always have to buy new tech, because it stops working and you can't fix it. They don't let you fix it. So, end rant. Miscellaneous. This is for anything that doesn't fall into any of my categories, and usually nothing falls in this category because, as you can see, I have so many categories for things to fit in. So $60 should be more than enough for the miscellaneous category. So my new category is DCFSA, and that is a dependent care federal savings account. I think the F is federal. And that comes out of my paycheck pre-tax. I get a tax deduction, and I can use that account for childcare. The max amount that I can withhold from my paycheck is $5,000, and I can apply all $5,000 of that to daycare. I will just pay my daycare lady like I regularly do and then submit for reimbursement. So it's just like when I had the FSA for health expenses, except now it's for childcare expenses. So that's why my daycare expenses are just over $10,000. It's because I've already subtracted out the $5,000 that I will be using the DCFSA for. So hopefully that will also reduce my taxes a little bit. I'm not exactly sure what that's going to look like. So you'll have to stay tuned for my first budget recap in January to find out exactly what my paycheck is going to be, and how much taxes are going to come out, and how much DCFSA is going to come out, and how much I'm going to contribute to retirement. And my retirement account loan shouldn't change, but it's all unknown right now. This is just the best guess that I can give it. And so we may have to adjust some of this stuff in the first quarter once we know exactly what it's going to be. The emergency fund, we are still just $500 away from the goal that I set last year. I set a goal of $18,000 last year. Oh, I set a goal of having $18,000 in my emergency fund, and we got up to 17,500 before we switched to saving for the new roof. So we're still just $500 away from hitting that $18,000 mark. Um, because we're so close, like it could go either way, whether we just contribute it and get it over with, or just, keep ignoring it like we've been doing all this year. So that leaves me with $7,424 of extra savings for the year. We have an expense that we know is coming up in the new year. We just have absolutely no idea how much it's going to cost us. I have probably mentioned that we have a leak in our pool, which we noticed over the summer after we replaced our pool pump and the pool pump was still not working. It's because there's a leak in there, and so it's underground, and I don't know if they're just going to be able to like blow the water out of the line and spray some kind of sealer in there and that'll fix it, or if they're gonna have to dig up like half of the pool to fix that. So it's probably gonna cost somewhere between $1,000 and $10,000 or something. So we have absolutely no idea, and hopefully we can get a quote or a couple of quotes um, for the cost of that. I know the most expensive thing is going to be the labor, because we had someone come out over the summer to look at it last year, and just them coming out to look at it for an hour was over $500. And really, they spent that entire hour just trying to figure out how our pool pump worked, like where the intake was and where the out, whatever. So just trying to figure out how it worked so they could try to stop it up so that they could see if and where there's a leak. They charge us $500. And so we know that the labor cost of fixing that is going to be crazy high. And then, like, if they have to dig things up, that's going to be even more money. So hopefully it's an easy fix. We'll probably find out halfway through the year, around the time that we open the pool, how much that's going to be, and then we'll have to probably adjust our goals accordingly. That may mean a delay on paying off the retirement account loan. But we also might have enough to cover it in our home and other sinking fund, or even our emergency fund if we need to. But if you're interested in where I got all of my goals, I have this annual projection page in my new budget template where I fill in what I'm expecting my paychecks to be and everything for the entire month, everything throughout all of our expenses. And then I can add like how much extra payment towards our truck and towards my retirement account loan until we've paid that off. And then I can see down here at the bottom how much I have left every month after, filling up after paying all of our expenses and our debts and filling up the sinking funds. That's how I figured out all of my annual goals. And it's, I'm kind of a nerd, but this is so much fun to play around with all of these projected numbers and seeing about like if we pay off more to the truck or more to the retirement or student loans, like how fast we can pay everything off by throwing so much more money at that for different times. So those are my financial goals for the year, at least as well as I can plan them out. without knowing whether or not my husband or I will be getting a raise this year, or how much some of our expenses are going to be. I'm really hoping this year that we can pay off a bit of our debts that we've kind of been neglecting in this last year because we've been saving for the roof, because I hate paying all that interest. Some of my other goals for 2025 are not really finance related. I am hoping to get monetized on YouTube. I've been on YouTube for about a year and I'm only about a quarter of the way towards the subscribers that I need and the watch hours. But I'm hoping that if I continue to be consistent, that it will pay off, because this is a lot of work, especially with a full-time job, to be making these videos, but it's really for me to keep me accountable. I know that you probably have to watch ads in order to watch my videos anyway, so it would be nice if I could get a cut of that, and it would help towards paying off my debts a little bit faster. I also would like to improve the quality of my videos because I'm still learning, and this is definitely a lot harder than it looks, especially for someone like me who's really uncomfortable with talking in front of the camera. My other goal this year is to be a little bit more active. I used to do yoga pretty frequently, but since having my daughter, it's been really hard to find the time and find the energy to get up and move for even just 20 minutes a day. I am doing a lot of walking and carrying her around, but I love the stretching and relaxing of yoga, and I think that it will really help with countering the additional stress that I've had since returning to work. So I think I want to make it a priority in 2025 to do yoga every day for at least 20 minutes. I think with my daughter being a little bit more independent as she gets towards 2 years old, that I should have a little bit more time to be able to do this. I think that's about it for my 2025 goals. If you've made your goals for this year and you'd like to share them, let me know down in the comments. I think it's really important to put your goals out there so that you're more likely to stick to them. I know that this year was probably the first time that I've actually written down goals that I wanted to achieve, and I am so close to achieving them. I can't wait to go through and see which ones I've met and see which ones I've exceeded. And if there are any that I haven't quite met, then I think that's perfect time for reflecting on how you can improve in the future. If you're interested in seeing a recap of my 2024 goals, then stick around and subscribe, because I should be putting out a video shortly. I also plan on recapping my low spend year and talking about all the things that I've learned and all the things I would do differently if I did it again. If you're still watching, then thank you so much. Really appreciate you sticking here until the end. Thank you for being here.